I should have put it. Yeah, you might have. Anyway, how do I solve theta in this case? How do I solve theta in this case? Inverse of what trig function? Which one? You guys agree it's the inverse cosine?
Yeah.
So you guys have done this in chapter 7 in geometry. You did this at the very beginning of this section. You did this in the very beginning of this section for honors as well. In order to figure out what theta was, you guys had to make sure that your calculators were in what mode? Degrees. Go back to your calculator, press mode, make sure you are in degrees, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you are in degrees. This is one of these things that you're going to have to start to understand. Which mode are you should you be in? If you're working with a triangle, you're probably working with degrees. So when you set this up, what do you guys get for theta for the inverse cosine of 5/9? How much? 56 1/4. I think that's what we were getting earlier. Anybody agree, disagree?
Yeah.
All right.
56 1/4.
So, like I said, you've done this before. This is not going to be anything scary, horrible, bad, new. The twist for this, well, let's do a couple of these real quick. What trig function are you going to use? Sine.
Sine.
Well, you're going to use sine to solve it with your calculator. What trig function are you going to use?
Sine.
Sine. You all right? All right. So now let's figure out what we do with this. We're going to start solving equations with trig functions.
There you go.
Again, what I want you to think about here is solve the equation where sine of theta is equal to negative 1/4.
Oh.
How do you get theta by itself? We do the inverse of sine here. So when I type that in my calculator, theta is equal to the inverse sine of negative 1/4.
Which is 14.4.
Inverse sine negative 1/4. And you guys get negative 14.48. Everybody get that? Now what I want you to think about is, what does that mean? Remember, sine is the first and the fourth quadrant between 90 and negative 90. Yes, sir.
Oh, well, I was just, I contact 14.5 on the 180 because I'd never be in 270s.
And that's exactly what we're doing.
That's it?
Pretty much. Again, what's happening here, sine values are always found between the first and fourth quadrant, between positive 90 and negative 90 degrees. This one gave us a sine value of negative 14.48, which means it's in the fourth quadrant, down negative 14.48. What is its reference angle? What's
14.48.
14.48? 14.48 would be its reference angle. Remember, how far off of the x-axis is it? It's 14.48. If I want this angle to be in the third quadrant, I need to move it around. We've done this before by moving reference angles, by adding or subtracting 180 or moving it into 360. We've done this. If I want to go to the third quadrant, I'm going to wind up being in here. What do I do with this reference angle into the third quadrant to make it work? All I have to do is add 180 to it. So my answer is 194.48. Remember, the sine value in the third quadrant is what? Sine positive or negative in the third quadrant? It's negative. So what we've just done here is basically used a non-special right triangle angle value and just shift it over to the third quadrant. We've done all the hard stuff before. This is the easy stuff. You're pressing buttons again. Okay. Somewhat clear?
Somewhat, is this over?
There's a little bit more to it, but for the most part, yeah.
I guess I don't know why you had 180. I didn't to get it in between 180.
Well, if
Where
you
do
have to-
start- where do you start at?
If you know your reference angle is in the first quadrant,
But it wasn't in.
we always go to find the reference angle then via the first quadrant.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you know that you're in the first quadrant for your reference angle,
So it's just.
you just this becomes your theta, and you just move it and bounce them around.
Okay.
All right. So inverse sine of negative 0.35. What do you get for theta? Let's try this again. What'd you get?
Negative 20.49.
Negative 24.49. If you have a negative angle here, what's the reference angle of this?
20.49.
It asks to go to which quadrant then?
Third.
What do I do to the 20.49 then?
Added 180.
Add 180. Add 180.
So you just add it to the smaller number, or to the smaller number in that little inequality?
I don't know, maybe. It depends on what the parameters are. Some of them are different than others.
Alright.
Okay. So if I wanted to become back over here, into the third quadrant, it winds up being, what is that, 200?
0.4.
Try the tangent one. Try the tangent one.
So the answer is?
The angle that has the sine value of negative 0.35 that's in the third quadrant is 200.49 degrees.
It's not, so it's not negative.
Because isn't the sine value negative in the third quadrant?
Yes.
Yeah, because you can go back and you can check it in your calculator. What's the sine of 200.49? Negative 0.35. You can always go back and double check, make sure you added it up correctly. Modalities are needed.
You don't really have to type in negative.
What's that?
You don't really have to type in negative. So you just want to reference angle.
There's a couple of tricks that happen with these things as you go through. You're using the inverse whenever you have to find an angle. You hit the button if you know the angle. You use the inverse if you don't. Again, when you do the tangent inverse of 2.4, (6738). Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
That puts us into the first quadrant. 38. Thank you. And again, it wants you to be in which quadrant? So what do I do to 67.39? Add 180. What do you get? 247.
38 hundredths.
Go for this 68. Go on. Again, is tangent positive in the third quadrant? Yeah. Because both cosine and sine are negative. It'll tell you which quadrant it's looking for. It'll tell you which one to bounce into. You'll notice that the signs will be the same what they're supposed to be. Tangent's positive in the third quadrant, so you're looking for an angle that has a positive tangent value in the third quadrant. That's all. It'll give you that. Yes, sir.
So we're just gonna add and subtract like 90s and 180s.
Pretty much.
180s,
Yeah.
Get it into the quadrant.
Yeah. There really isn't that much to this. Again, this is going to be more of a precursor for what we do in 14, of knowing how things bounce into which quadrant, depending upon what parameter they give you. And if there's any, I think you were asking me this before, if there's like a repetition, how it can continually, every time I go around to here or here, I'm going to get the same tangent value each time. This is halfway around, isn't it, each time I get there? What am I adding to it each time? Or plus pi. So this is kind of where we're going. We're going to get to that 14. This is just getting your feet wet, shall we say. All right. You know, a lot of people forgot to bring calculators and stuff this week, or so far. Inverse cosine of 0.43.
Yeah.
6453. Now again, if my reference angle is 6453, and I want to be placed into the third quadrant, what do I do? Do I add from 270 or do I subtract from 360?
Subtract from 360.
Subtract from 360, guys. You're always working with the x-axis. You're always bouncing off the x-axis. Don't bounce off the y stuff. It won't work. No, you wouldn't add. Yeah. 270 wouldn't get you there. It'll be short. You'll miss it because if you get your reference angle here, the full angle coming around would be 360 minus the 270. If I took this if I took this angle and I added 270, I'm going to be short and won't be there. So what'd you guys get? It was like 9.
295.
Sounds about right.
Is this all we have to learn?
Sure.
He's advanced.
And then again, sine of 0.8. What angle gives you a sine of 0.8?
53.13.
And I want to be in the second quadrant. How do I get it to the second quadrant? I can't add 90.
No, you subtract from 180.
Jeez.
Well, you could.
And you'll be wrong.
You'd be wrong. Why didn't you pay attention to class? What's wrong with you? Right?
Then you get 126.87.
So these can never be negative, correct?
Your angles, yeah, it'll have a parameter. It'll have that parameter basis on there. It might have a negative one, but I'm pretty sure most of these things are always going to be found in a positive value. If it was negative, you just have to go the other direction. Still use your reference angles like you would before. All right. Remember, the test this week on Thursday, I think Thursday might wind up being a little bit weird. Well, as of right now, Thursday there is no flex.
Oh no.
They are doing the other 6, starting at 44. I'd like you to go through 56. 44 through 56. Just so you guys know, there is a question on there. It refers to an example. Guys, there's a question in there that refers to an example that you have to turn back a couple of pages to work on. So you know. All right? Go ahead. Which means don't worry about that stuff. Yes, sir. 44 through 56. 796.
I told you I wasn't gonna give you any more paper.
Fine.